Hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today, I want to share some personal experiences that have happened in my home involving my son, my husband, and me. I got married in 2012, and exactly a year later, in 2013, I moved to Germany to be with my husband, who was born and raised here. His entire family lives in Germany, so I moved to Frankfurt. Before I arrived, my husband had already rented a two-bedroom apartment. It was on the ground floor, and my in-laws lived on the first floor. They had been living there for quite some time, and my husband had rented the ground floor apartment about a year before I moved in. So, after a year of marriage, I joined him, and we started living in that ground floor apartment. When I first arrived in Germany, I began to have very strange dreams. I wouldn't call it sleep paralysis, as I had experienced that in Pakistan, but it felt similar in that my limbs wouldn't move. I would try to read faces in my dreams, but they weren't scary. I never saw any entities. I was often in desolate places, usually on an empty road during an eerie afternoon, which frightened me. These dreams would occur at a specific time when my husband would leave for work in the morning. Since I was expecting at that time, I would go back to sleep after he left. I would be alone in the house, with my in-laws in their own part of the apartment. It would usually be around 8 or 9 a.m. when these dreams occurred, and they continued for a whole year until my son was born. I never attributed them to anything paranormal. I thought maybe it was because I had just moved from Pakistan and missed my parents. One strange thing was that the side of the bed where I used to sleep was near the window. After my son was born, we needed to set up a crib, and my husband suggested I switch sides with him. I started sleeping on the other side, and he took the side I used to sleep on. Often at night, I would hear him making strange noises in his sleep, and when I would wake him, he would say he was scared but never told me what he dreamed about. He has had his share of paranormal experiences, but never shares them with me. It was odd that after we switched sides, he began having those dreams. However, once I started sleeping on the other side, I didn't feel scared anymore, and the bad dreams stopped. I thought maybe it was because I felt less alone now that I had my son with me. When my son was 6 months old, my mother-in-law brought the toy basket with 2 cats that moved a little when you turned a key and played nice music. I would often wind it up and show it to my son, who enjoyed the music and would look around to find where it was coming from. One night, while we were sleeping, the toy suddenly started playing music continuously. I was confused because it was right next to me. My husband woke up, and I tried to wake him up, but he was quiet, probably thinking I would get scared. When I finally got him to wake up, he took the toy back to my mother-in-law, saying I was scared because it was playing by itself. We ended up getting rid of the toy, thinking it might be faulty, but deep down, we knew it wasn't just that. When my son was about 2 years old, I was expecting my second child. My mother-in-law usually cooked, and we would eat together. I would go upstairs to make bread. My son had just started walking and loved climbing stairs, so he would often go up by himself. One day, as I was preparing to go upstairs, I noticed the gate was open. I assumed my son had gone up before me. When I asked my mother-in-law where he was, she said he hadn't come up yet. I insisted he had, so she suggested I check downstairs. I went down and searched the entire house, even checking the wardrobes, but he was nowhere to be found. I ran back upstairs, panicking, and told my mother-in-law he wasn't downstairs. She and my father-in-law became worried, and my father-in-law even ran outside, thinking he might have gone out. I checked the upstairs drawing area, but he wasn't there either. Then it hit me that he might have gone to the basement. I rushed down there, where we had 3 rooms. 2 were locked and 1 was open, where we kept our bicycles. I called up for my son, and to my surprise, I heard him laugh. He was behind a drum that was pushed against the wall in a corner. I couldn't understand how he got there because there was no space for him to crawl behind it. When I pulled him out, he was covered in dirt. I cleaned him up, and that night he started screaming in his sleep. I quickly woke my husband, who turned on the light. My son was looking at the door, screaming, and we quickly recited verses to calm him down. The next day, I told my mother-in-law what happened. She was very religious and would recite prayers and keep order blessed. She gave me some to use on my son. For about 10 minutes 15 days, we continued this routine, and thankfully, he stopped being scared. We became more cautious and didn't let him go to the basement anymore. About 7 or 8 months later, my daughter was born. She was very attached to me and would cry if my husband held her. One night, while I was putting my son to bed, my husband took her upstairs to his mother. After I laid my son down, I noticed his teddy bear, which was a crawling toy that played music when you pressed a button. I left him in bed and went to the living room, but the teddy bear started crawling and playing music on its own. I was terrified because I had to pass it to get outside. I quickly called my husband to come down, but he thought I just wanted him to check on the baby. I didn't want to tell him I was scared. After a couple of minutes, I called him again, more urgently this time. When he came down and opened the door, the teddy bear stopped moving. I told him what had happened, and he just laughed, saying it was probably malfunctioning. We decided to put it away in the basement. Later, while cleaning the basement, I found an old toy car from my husband's childhood. We tried to get it working, but it wouldn't move. My husband suggested we just put it away if it was broken. As he was walking toward me, the car started following him, moving on its own. I saw it clearly, and when he turned around, it stopped. He was shocked and put it away in the basement, saying we didn't need toys that moved by themselves. The most intense experience happened in November 2020 when my mother passed away in Pakistan during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. I was devastated and couldn't go back home. That night, I lay down with my children after crying. My husband was sleeping on the couch in the living room. Suddenly, I heard the sound of glass breaking in the kitchen, even though everything was put away. I thought maybe I had missed something, but then I heard footsteps coming from the kitchen to the living room. I turned to see my husband still lying there, and I was confused about who was walking around. Shortly after, the glass on the side table next to my husband fell over, and I heard the footsteps return to the kitchen. I was in a daze, processing everything. Days later, I asked my husband if he had heard anything unusual that night. He confirmed that he had heard the glass fall and footsteps approaching him while he was awake. He said something had come close to him and knocked over the glass before returning to the kitchen. There were many small incidents, like things going missing and then reappearing. At first, I thought I was just forgetting where I put things, but I later realized they were genuinely disappearing. The last incident before we moved out was when we were packing up. My son's teddy bear was on the floor, and when I turned around, I saw its arm had moved from pointing up to pointing down. I was startled, and thought maybe I was imagining things. When I looked at my husband, he was also staring at the teddy bear, and he confirmed he saw it move too. It seemed like something in that house liked to play with toys. Initially, we would throw out any toys that scared us, but eventually, we realized the issues weren't with the toys but with the house itself. So, we stopped throwing out toys and kept them around. Those were some of the experiences we had in that house.